Hi folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help when you do that. So today folks, a slightly different video for you. I was over on the gear page a couple of months ago and there was a thread going around on there all about YouTube gear reviews. And from memory it was somebody who wanted to start a YouTube channel and they were asking for advice on how best to do that. Now it was one of those classic gear page threads that became incredibly heated and divisive. But I posted over there with 10 of my personal tips for starting a YouTube channel and kind of running a YouTube channel, because I do this semi-professionally nowadays and you can never tell on the gear page, but people seem to be agreeing with the things I was saying. So I wanted to make this video today offering you 10 pieces of advice for doing YouTube in relation to guitar gear. So number one, and this is by far and away the most important one, sound quality is infinitely more important than video quality. People seem to get very hung up on, I haven't got a good enough camera, I need to get a £2,000 Sony whatever with this lens. You don't. You really don't. For the last 6 or 7 months or so on this channel, I've been using a Sony ZV-1, which is a good camera. I think it was about £800. But before that, I was just using about a 4-year-old GoPro Hero 6 Black. Absolutely fine. You can get them secondhand pretty affordably. And nowadays, camera phones do really good video quality. You don't need to worry about video quality, but you do need to worry about sound quality. And that's one of my real pet peeves when it comes to YouTube gear demos, is people using the phones on their camera as well as the footage on their camera, because you can hear them saying things like, oh, can you feel the low end on this amp? And it's like, you're using a phone microphone. I can't hear anything below 1K at all. And as they're moving the phone around, you can hear the sound phasing as it moves across the axis of the speaker, and it's distorting, and it's just a mess. Using like a webcam microphone to record a loud guitar amp and the microphone's distorting and you can't hear it very well, that tells you absolutely nothing about anything. So if you're going to make an investment in terms of starting a YouTube channel, don't worry about cameras, don't worry about posh studio lighting or anything like that. Just buy yourself a cheap interface and an SM57, because that will be infinitely better in terms of audio quality than using a phone camera, for example. So don't get hung up on video, don't get hung up on lighting, don't get hung up on your presenting skills or anything like that. Just invest in a good microphone, please. Number two, find a core audience and tailor your content to them. Now, this is one thing where I see people falling down a little bit on YouTube, is they think, well, if I make my content as diverse as possible, more people will like it. But what seems to be the way that's kind of worked for me is you find your core audience and then tailor your content to them and give them what they want, and slowly people will join and start to sort of cluster together and your channel will grow. So on this channel, I focus on boutique gear and nice speakers and analog vintage pedals, things like that. If I suddenly started demoing a drum set and a Kemper Axe effects and a piano, my core audience is going to go, what? He's lost it. So, and then they'll start to unsubscribe and people won't want to join. You need to have a consistency in what you put out, because if you try and be jack of all trades, master of nothing, your channel's going to be more confusing than anything else, and people aren't going to want to subscribe to you, because by definition, only 10–20% of your videos are actually going to be relevant to them. Whereas if you stick to your core audience and give them what they want, then people will know that 90% of your content will be relevant and they'll hit subscribe. So that's not to say you can't throw in curveballs every now and again. I made a video a couple of weeks ago all about using 2 of the cheapest, worst transistor guitar amps ever made. Far cry away from what I usually do on this channel, but it was delivered in a way that hopefully is engaging to people who typically watch the channel. So you can throw in curveballs, you can have diversity in what you put out, but don't lose sight of your core audience, and you need to keep them happy and attract more similar-minded people to grow your channel. If you start to throw out everything and diversify your content to the point where it just becomes watered down and confusing, people won't know what's going on and they won't want to subscribe. Number 3, it is a very saturated market. Go on YouTube, there are hundreds of thousands of channels demoing guitar gear, and some of them are absolutely enormous. So if you're going to go up against the likes of the JHS Show and Sweetwater and Reverb, That Pedal Show, HP 56, whatever he's called, You need to be able to offer something that those channels don't. You need to have a unique selling point. What makes you and your content different to those other channels? Why should people who watch those very established channels leave those channels and come and watch you? And you need to be able to offer something unique. So it doesn't need to be anything particularly groundbreaking. It could be your presenting style, it could be your recording style, it could be top sound quality, it could be a very quirky video production. Whatever it is, you need to offer something that is different to the other channels. Otherwise, you're going to be screaming into the void and no one's going to listen to you. So you need to be able to offer something different. So think about what your unique selling point in the world of YouTube gear reviews could be. Number 4, don't expect to earn a living off it, and at least not for many, many, many years. Now, earning money off YouTube is something that people generally think is very easy to do, and in reality, it's a complete and utter nightmare. So YouTube's regulations nowadays are, in order to earn advertising revenue, you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers and I think 4,000 hours of watch time throughout the previous 365 days, which took me years to get to in order to be able to run adverts on my videos and earn a little bit of advertising revenue. But that said, it's not a lot of advertising revenue. And genuinely, if I was paid legal minimum wage as an hourly rate for every hour I put in on this YouTube channel, I would be 20, 30 times more financially well off than I am doing this. It is not a money earner. So you need to get into it because it's a hobby that you love doing, and you're essentially putting your hobby out there and people might want to watch you doing it. Don't view it as, I'm going to put a few videos out and then I'm just going to wait for the advertising revenue to come in. It won't happen like that. So it will take years and years of hard graft to build up your channel, build up your brand, build up your follower count, build up your reputation to the point where you can start earning advertising revenue. People come to your channel to watch your reviews over other people's. Manufacturers might start wanting to work with you and send you gear to demo. It takes years to get to that point. So if you're someone that kind of requires instant gratification in terms of what you do and not much work to put in for the reward, this isn't the right profession for you. You will put in many, many, many times more hours and effort than the reward that comes back actually kind of, they don't balance up essentially. So you need to get into doing YouTube for the love of doing YouTube rather than trying to make it a career, at least in the short to medium term. Long term, things can grow and advertising comes in and people start paying you for reviews. That can happen. I'm still waiting for that really. But, it's a slow burner. It's not a quick, growth, get rich quick scheme whatsoever. Number 5, don't play famous/copyrighted riffs. Now, this is something that's become an issue in the last couple of years, and plenty of YouTubers have made videos about this topic, Rick Beato being a very vocal person about this. Now, essentially nowadays, where this all comes from is, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, record labels were rich because everyone was buying vinyl records, then CDs, and there was a lot of money in recorded music. Nowadays, there's very little. Streaming revenues are pitiful. People aren't buying CDs. People are buying vinyl, but not at the level they were back in the 80s. So record labels don't have very much money, and they have to try and make money from elsewhere. Now, that can take a lot of different forms. When I was doing my dissertation at university, I interviewed there wasn't a boss, but someone fairly high up in a major record label. And they were saying that they have to try and skim money from everything that their artists do. So the example they gave me was, if somebody such as Girls Aloud do a TV advert for a hair product, the record label will take a big percentage of the revenue that comes in from that advert. They skim revenue from absolutely everywhere. And one thing they've got really, really hot on in the last few years is other people on YouTube playing their riffs. Now, this isn't, people need to be compensated for other people using their work, absolutely. But the way they go about this is pretty brutal and not very fair, I don't personally think. What can happen is, if you make a 15-minute YouTube video demoing a pedal, but within that you play 5 seconds of Highway to Hell, for example, whichever record label AC/DC assigned to, can swoop in, put a copyright claim against you, and if you get 3 of those, your channel gets shut down. But they also take 100% of the revenue for that video. Even though it's a 15-minute video and you played their riff for 5 seconds, they will take all of that revenue and you will earn nothing. So if you're wanting to get into monetizing your videos and earning money off YouTube adverts, don't play copyrighted riffs. I used to, but nowadays in the last sort of 18 months or so, I only play non-copyrighted riffs. And if I want to kind of reference a riff, one important skill is to find ways of kind of implying that riff without actually playing it. So when I've been demoing like Mark II tone benders, for example, people have commented saying, "You're not playing the Whole Lotta Love riff right." It's like, yeah, deliberately so, because I don't want a copyright strike. So you can find ways of kind of half referencing that riff and start playing it but then go somewhere else, so it's obviously not that riff but people can see what you're doing. There are ways around it, but you have to be quite clever with that. But if you want to get serious about earning money off YouTube AdSense revenue, don't start playing famous riffs. Number 6, be a decent person. Now, this is one thing that came up on that gear page thread, and it was very divisive and everyone got very fired up over it. But essentially it was the idea of buying new pedals from big retailers, demoing them, and then returning them within a 30-day return policy or whatever the return policy is. Don't do that. It's not cool. It might be legal to do that. You might be allowed to buy a pedal, play it for a week, making a few videos and then return it, and they can then sell it on as a, B stock or whatever. But it might be legal, but it's not ethical. Don't get into doing that, please. Now, one thing that's very important is if you are buying your own gear to use on the channel, like I do 98% of the time, buy secondhand and buy carefully as well. There is no point hemorrhaging cash by, jumping on things that aren't good deals and then you try and sell it on and you lose handfuls of money. Buy sensibly, but go on the second-hand market. Generally speaking, if you're careful with this, you can buy things on eBay or Reverb used for a sensible price, demo it, and then sell it on for probably a similar price to what you bought it for, less a few fees. And if you're clever and you wait, 6 months or something and that demand for that pedal goes up, you might even be able to make a bit of money doing that. But don't go on to, Sweetwater or Guitar Center in the States or Andertons or Guitar in the UK, buy new stuff, demo it, and then return it and get into a habit of doing that. It's not cool to do that. It might be legal, but it sure as hell ain't ethical, so just don't do it. Number 7, find some friends with gear you don't have. Now, like I was saying just now about, buying stuff and then returning it, borrowing gear off friends is a free resource. You can swap pedals with them for a week or two, demo their pedals, and then return them. And you've got content for your channel with a setup that works for all parties. Much more ethical than buying and returning. So, if we all have guitar player friends, give them your overdrive pedal and borrow theirs for a week. Make a video with it. People are very cool like that. And it gives you access to pedals you don't own for essentially free content, and everybody wins. So, find some friends with good gear. Number 8, post content regularly, but not too much. Now, this is something I certainly fell foul of in the early days of this channel, is, some days I would post 4 videos in a day, and people would comment saying, yeah, okay, I've subscribed to you, but tone it down a bit, because people will get fed up with you flooding their feed with constant content. But also you need to have some regularity in terms of posting videos, because if you post one video and just sit back and wait for your subscriber count to go up, it won't happen. You need to give people content on a semi-regular basis, but not too much. So for example, on this channel, I post a video usually about every 4 days. So that seems to be a decent happy place between the two, but don't start posting 10 videos a day, because as soon as someone hits subscribe and you destroy their feed with your videos, they'll just unsubscribe. But you need to give them regular content as well and build that sort of brand and awareness and reputation up as being someone who can deliver quality content at a sensible interval. Number 9, listen to your audience. Now, this is, just my personal take on this. A lot of YouTubers, not necessarily guitar demo people, but just YouTubers in general, will say things like, don't listen to the haters, just be you. Focus on being you, regardless of the fallout. Now, if you're a musician and you're putting creative content out there, your own work, for example, then yes, that's good for the artistic ego, not to listen to people who don't like it and just follow your vision, fine. But it's not going to grow your YouTube channel. Now, the way I do things on this channel is I read every single comment that comes in. I do my best to reply to every single comment that comes in. I make end of month Q&A videos addressing the most sort of important and relevant comments that come in. And in my experience, and this is just my experience here, about 90% of the negative comments that come in do have a very valid point behind them. So you might have to pick through a few profanities and, you know, deal with people having personal opinions on you because they don't like a pedal. But ultimately, people generally have a valid point, on this channel at least, when they leave a negative comment. So people might say, oh, you demoed this pedal with this guitar, that was wrong, you should have used that guitar. And they probably have a point. So I use those negative comments to learn and try and do things better going forwards. But that said, there is that last 10%. You do need to ignore those guys, and this is one of the real downsides of doing YouTube. I don't get it too bad on this channel, fortunately, but people will have very strong opinions on you personally because they don't like what they've searched and clicked on. If they are clicking on a video about, you know, why they think paper and oil capacitors are better than ceramic capacitors, and they find my video showing that they pretty much sound exactly the same, that's not the result they want to hear, and they will just launch at you in the comment section and hurl all the abuse. You need to ignore those guys. Don't let them drag you down. There will always be muppets online who search for things, don't like it, and just unload in the comment section because they're unhappy. It doesn't really mean anything. But generally speaking, the 90% of comments that do come in that are negative, I take them as constructive criticism rather than a personal attack, because there is genuine kind of substance behind what they're trying to say with the profanities. So listen to your audience. If you put something out that they don't like, you know, fairly unanimously, there's probably a reason why your audience isn't liking that particular video. What did you do differently in that video that made them not like it? And don't do the same thing again. Or if you do the same thing again, frame it in a way that, you know, shows you're aware that people might not like this, however you think it's an important concept to address, and leave it up to the comment section to say whether you're right or not. Don't throw too many personal opinions out there when you have that core audience that go against your core audience, because, you know, ultimately that's just going to lead to conflict. So listen to your audience, tailor your content to them, but when people do give you criticism, take it on board and learn from it. And number 10, just be yourself. Now, if you go on YouTube and you pretend to be somebody or something you're not, people are going to see those videos and they can smell that from a mile away. Don't go on there. I mean, if I went on, you know, YouTube now and said, oh yeah, well, I was hanging out with this famous guitarist last week, and yeah, I got given all this gear by this company, you would know that wasn't genuine. I'm a guy in his bedroom, for Christ's sake. So if you are another guy in his bedroom or girl, embrace that. Be honest about who you are, and honesty and authenticity is one of the most important things. It's up there with the sound quality. Be a decent person with honesty and integrity and good sound quality. Offer something that other channels can't, and you should notice your rewards coming in within a sensible period of time. Manage those expectations, but don't give up. You cannot give up if you're wanting to go into the world of YouTube. You need to persevere. You need to be a good person, but understand that it's not going to grow as quickly as you might want it to. You need to put the hours in to reap the rewards. So there we are, folks, my 10 tips for starting a YouTube channel. Now, as always, please do comment underneath. Do you agree with those tips? Do you have tips of your own? Do you disagree with them? Let's have a good, healthy discussion down in the comment section. But I hope this video was interesting and useful for you. I hope it inspires some future budding YouTuber in terms of the world of guitar gear. You know, take those tips on board, but, you know, use them as a starting point. Don't take them as the gospel truth. They're just one person's perspective on all of that. So thank you for watching, folks. Please do carry on subscribing if you haven't done so yet. I always say it, but it does make a big difference when you subscribe. It helps to grow the channel. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.